There, sitting behind the door, was a dog. It sat and looked up at me in confusion. I did the same to it. After giving me a once-over, it walked over to me and nuzzled up against my leg. I instinctively reached down to pet it, as I would with any dog. This wasn't any dog. After a few minutes of getting to know each other, it walked back into the pantry and vanished before my very eyes. It was a ghost. My fear completely dissipated after that day. I now come home to the sound of scratching and smile. I no longer open the pantry door in fear, but instead to let my new friend out. He walks around the house, exploring, just like a normal dog would. He even sits down and watches TV with me from time to time. He's a bit shy, though, vanishing whenever I have company over. Still, he is a good dog. A very good dog. I assume he belonged to one of the many owners of the house, seeing as it had been built long before my parents moved in. I guess he couldn't just let the place go. Neither could I. A few weeks of bonding later, and I realized that I didn't have anything to call him by. I walked over to the little guy, pat him on the back of his neck. That was his favorite spot. I thought about it for a moment, and then came up with the perfect name. I'll call you Monster. And that was The Monster in the Pantry, written by Christopher Maxim. That one was definitely better than the last one, I have to say. Also, sorry, I got a little too frenzied, I guess, with the sound effects on the fly, and that was not a creepy pasta, but a wholesome pasta. I know, it was a feels pasta. I believe that's what they're called. You grab me with those dark arms and cuddle me. Aww. If I could, I would. Anyway, howdy, Cal. Glad you could join us, and Snake. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Read your scary story. Promise the scariest thing you'll ever read. I think I briefly noticed that you had posted something. Let me see if I can. I have to go back a little. Alright, scary dream. Or scary story. I had a dream of my friend, Big Tuna, at the food dish, and Big Tuna meow for food. When I turn around, he has no food. That's super scary. Sure, I'll be devoured, but it's worth it. That's not what I'm about, man. I just look scary, that's all. I cry every time. Also super digging the doll PNG. Thank you, Stella. Stella drew this. It was my my Halloween avatar. Because with the little bits and pieces of lore that I've been slowly developing, I've essentially made myself into, it's like, at least in my version of a mimic, they're more akin to spirits than anything. So I could technically shapeshift into anything I want as long as I can make the skin, so to speak. Could I become an elephant? If I had enough fabric and willpower, yes. But I would probably become a mouse instead. Easier to move around. Also made a joke that that mimics would be like an owl, in which they don't, there's certain things that they don't actually digest, and so they hawk it up like owl pellets. That got everybody in ARC laughing. That was great. When they shall devour gods and archangels. I'm not gonna dignify that with a particular response. I'm not sure I want to know. I have a feeling I know what you're talking about. However, I'm not gonna say it. Aren't you supposed to be going to bed? Biblically accurate stitches. Yeah, I suppose that would be the term. Uh-huh. Guys want to hear a classic creepypasta? I think last time we ended up doing Ickbar Bigglestein and a couple others. But there's plenty to choose from. Go Twitch on your phone. Let's go. Yeah. Let's see, we got Laughing Jack, Jeff the Killer, Hoodie, Herobrine. Held. I'd do Ben Drowned, but that one would take a really long time. Jeff the Killer. We have the original Jeff the Killer, we have the reboot, and we also have Jeff the Killer Scars of Corruption, which is apparently the sequel to the Jeff the Killer reboot. The Herobrine one, I think you heard it like 15 years ago, but Jeff the Killer. Yeah, they're both pretty old. Oh, let me see. Okay, so the original Jeff the Killer was apparently first published in 2012. And the reboot was published in 2018. Let me see. Where's the Herobrine one? Oh, Herobrine is even older. It was published in 2010. Jeff the Killer, the Photoshop picture of the overweight Korean woman. I never knew what the origins of the actual picture were, but I guess. I guess something like that. Anyway, Jeff the Killer. I'm gonna do the reboot. Estimated reading time is 34 minutes. Whoo! So you guys better strap in. We're in for a wild ride. But first, I'm gonna take a drink. Before I begin, do I need to, Oh, you got scared by an ad. Nice. Do you guys need me to adjust any noises or anything? Is my voice okay? Do I need to turn up the music in the background at all? Am I too close to the mic? Am I not close enough? Sound great for you? Awesome. I don't know how long the ad is going on for. I should probably check, huh? Nice. Alright, I just have the 60-second ads. Alright. You also got one, might be 15 to 20 minutes to read. As long as it's, free to read, you have to make sure that the author gave permission for it to be narrated. That's the biggest issue that I found. Anyway, let's get started. Jeff the Killer, the reboot. Written by Kate Anning Kellum. The day Jeffrey Woods and his family arrived at their new home, the sky was overcast and the weather was muggy. The gray skies seemed to punctuate his mood. Jeff was not thrilled to be here. Their new home was beautiful, though. A true example of his father's newfound success. But still, it wasn't the home he'd known. A week after they'd settled in, Jeff and Lou woke up early. The sky was a crisp and gorgeous blue, and although the Louisiana heat was playing its usual cruel tricks, the brothers decided that a morning bike ride to explore the area would be just the right ticket to combat the slight pangs of homesickness that they'd both been experiencing over the last week. "I miss home," Lou blurted out, as Jeff was smearing salsa on the microwave burrito that would serve as his breakfast. "Me too, Lou. I guess this is home now, so we just sort of have to make the most of it." I know, but all of our friends and stuff are back in New Orleans. Remember that building we always sneak up on top of and watch the city lights come on? I miss that, Lou responded, sounding down. Yeah, and the ZM video. The owner knew us and would always let us rent R-rated movies without our parents. And then he'd always hook us up with a free video game rental if we got a few movies. Yeah, I miss that too, Lou. But we have to, Lou interrupted. I know we have to make the most out of this, but still, this place just seems so fake. And Mom and Dad still treat us like we aren't even here. Yep, they do. I was sort of hoping the new house would improve their mood, but what can we do? Lou had no answer. Jeff finished his breakfast, and the two boys left the house to mount their bikes and explore around a bit more. As it turned out, the subdivision they moved into was rather close to a cluster of stores and a small shopping center. Village Shopping Center was the name of the short row of businesses. Within these were a Pizza Hut, a Chinese restaurant, a tobacco store, a Sprint store, and, what Jeff and Lou were most excited about, a video store. We have to get Mom or Dad to come down here and open up an account so we can rent movies, Lou mentioned as Jeff flipped a box over to read the description of a horror movie. Shit, you're right, Jeff snapped, feeling a bit of frustration at this thought. He knew getting his parents to actually come down here and set up a membership would take forever, since their usual after-work routine was to go off into separate rooms until they got hungry enough to come out and speak. Jeff glanced over at the girl working behind the counter. Maybe I can go over there and sweet-talk her into giving us accounts, he joked. Yeah, right, Jeff. One look at you and she'll probably ban us. A smile broadened in his face as Lou remarked back. You doubt me, little man? Don't you? Little guy... the guy who's kissed 2 girls and almost touched a boob, but never, please go on over there and lay on all the charm. Whatever. I could have banged that girl, but her parents came home, and last time you told me that story, you said her parents were out of town and her sister came home. Jeff became flustered, and while in the process of trying to make yet another comeback, the girl behind the register moved all doubt by speaking to the boys herself. Hey, aren't those your bikes? The young woman asked, pointing towards the glass window. Jeff and Lou looked over and saw 3 boys outside, 2 of which were riding around in circles on the Wood Brothers bikes. They'd spin them around and jump off, letting the bikes crash onto the pavement just to stand them up and ride them again. The 2 boys riding the bikes were both slim in build, while a heavier boy stood on the sidewalk drinking a Red Bull and watching. Jeff and his brother made their way towards the doors of the video store when the fat kid saw them coming. Jeff couldn't hear what he said to his 2 friends, but he made some sort of gesture while shouting, and the other 2 boys dumped the bikes where they lay and walked towards the sidewalk, directly towards the 2 brothers. Those yours bikes? One of the boys asked as Jeff and Lou entered the summer heat. Yeah, why are you riding them? Lou asked sharply. Just saw them there, man. Relax. Figured someone just let them out for us, the same boy responded, as his 2 friends joined him on either side. Jeff, determined to make a good start here, tried to change the course of the confrontation. Well, they're ours. We just moved here about a week ago. We live over on Fairmount Avenue, a few blocks from here. We were just checking out the neighborhood. Jeff hoped that a civil tone would turn things around, but he could tell by the insolent look on the kid's face that this was going to be a difficult gamble. Good for you, you moved somewhere, the fat kid remarked. Oh yeah, Troy. They moved into that piece of crap house with the gravel driveway. I was wondering who would move into that place. Well, Randy, now we know. The big kid, apparently named Troy, replied. Jeff, still trying to salvage the conversation, tried peaceful banter one more time. Okay, so you're Troy, and you're Randy. Well, I'm Jeff, and this is my little brother Lou, and we just moved here from Nolans. You ain't Nolans now, third boy, who just now decided to speak, remarked. Yeah, and who the said you could call us by our names? Randy asked, that insolent, privileged smile never leaving his face. Jeff smiled and responded to Randy. Well, I guess I could have called you an asshole, but I figured I would give you the benefit of the doubt. In that moment, a flare of rage replaced the smirk that had rested on Randy's face throughout the entire exchange. The other two boys, Troy and the still unknown third member of his band, seemed to be momentarily struck silent. Perhaps they weren't used to being stood up to. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that language too adult for you? Jeff asked. And you, quiet boy. We know this isn't Nolans, Jeff stated to the slim kid that had reminded him of his geographical location. Because if this was Nolans, you three would have already got your asses kicked for touching someone else's shit. The slim kid looked back and forth at his two friends. However, Randy, clearly the leader, seemed to know what to say. Keith, you gonna let this little bitch talk to you like that? Jeff knew this part, and while he wanted quite badly to sock Randy and his pals around, a real concern suddenly invaded his mind. If he and Lou got into a fight on their first week in this new neighborhood, their parents would freak. Could practically hear it now. And while things had been far from perfect in their home, even after the move, there was a peace that had fallen over the family, and Jeff, fighting his urges, decided to do his best to keep it. Jeff looked over the three very well-dressed, very privileged-looking suburban kids before them and dismissed them. You guys are boring. Come on, Lou. Let them continue their play dates without us. Lou laughed at that and followed behind his brother towards the bike. However, Randy and his little gang of would-be toughs would have none of it, and they moved to block Jeff and his brother once again. Where you going, coward? Randy asked, shoving Jeff. Jeff could tell that the shove had no real conviction. Randy was trying to figure him out, seeing where his buttons were. He'd push harder eventually, but Jeff swallowed the slowly building anger within him once more. Lou took a bit more exception to the shove. We're going to your mom's house. Me and my brother saved up a couple of dollars doing chores. We hear she doesn't charge much. As soon as the words left Lou's mouth, Randy appeared to only register a small portion of it all. Randy Hayden had grown up in Mandeville. His father was a partner at the local firm that made a lot of money, something else that Jeff would soon come to learn. Randy and his friends, while the same age as Jeff, had grown up in very different circumstances. They were used to being listened to. They were used to being feared. In fact, Randy, the target of the insult, just stood there. It was actually Troy, the fat kid, who stepped forward, fist balled, eyes squinted in anger. Who you talking to? Troy shouted, and took a wild swing at Lou. Lou, who was both in better shape and had sparred with Jeff a time or two during his time spent boxing, was able to avoid the punch, but just barely. Had that been all, it may have once again ended there. Troy was clearly taken by surprise at Lou's speed, and actually didn't attempt another punch. However, these were bullies. Kids that ran in a pack for a reason. The skinny one, Keith, stepped around and threw a punch that connected to the left side of Lou's face. Jeff had seen enough. He'd been shocked at how quickly this evolved into blows, even though he'd expected it almost from the start. When he'd first met Randy and his friends, he'd been curious. From there, he'd developed an annoyance with them, and slowly that annoyance had evolved into anger. However, upon seeing Lou punched, Seeing the small trickle of blood from on his brother's lower lip, upon seeing the smug look of satisfaction on Keith's face, that anger that Jeff felt suddenly exploded into a rage that he'd never felt before in his life. Jeff Woods did not hesitate. He stepped forward, his feet automatically falling into the correct stance that he'd learned from boxing classes his father once enrolled him into, and delivered a powerful right hand to Keith's face. The skinny boy had no time to register the shock or pain. The punch caught him by surprise, and his knees buckled. Keith went down to the ground in a heap of confusion and dawning fear. Randy, the so-called leader here, was almost too shocked to move. He'd had quite a lot of experience starting fights, but no real time logged in losing them. He'd never felt control of a situation slip. He was used to being in charge, so now seeing one of his friends go down so quickly and easily left him in a state of shock that he had no idea how to address. Troy, on the other hand, seemed to have a plan. Throw another punch. He moved towards Jeff, deceptively faster than his weight would seem to allow, and threw 2 equally fast punches. Jeff, however, had no problem sidestepping both attempts. Troy, seeming lost for action, actually dropped his arms as if to say, "Gee, what do I do now?" Jeff had the answer. He moved in, throwing 3 hooks to Troy's stomach. The hefty kid's eyes went wide as pie pans, a fitting analogy, Jeff thought. He staggered back, clutching his throbbing stomach. Jeff wasted no time and stepped in once more, fetching a sharp punch to the kid's big jaw, causing Troy to promptly fall on his ass. Jeff was reminded of King Hippo from the Punch-Out game he used to play. He couldn't help but smile. Jeff now turned his focus on Randy. He advanced on the boy, feeling something new forming inside of him. He still felt the anger, rage, actually, at the antics of these 3 buttholes. They had the nerve to mess with their bikes, the nerve to insult 2 kids they've never met before, and of course the ultimate offense, touching his brother. However, mixed in with the rage was also a sweet, enjoyable pleasure. Not only was he kicking their asses, but he was loving every second of it. It was as though the joy of showing them up was perfectly blending with the rage he felt towards them. Together, it formed into a sadistic, controlled sense of power. And that was until Lou stepped in front of him. "Jeff, stop. That's enough." "Why stop now, Lou? They wanted this," Jeff replied in a flat voice that Lou had never heard come from his brother's mouth. "She's calling the cops, look!" Lou shouted again. This time, Jeff came back to reality long enough to listen. He glanced over at the video store clerk and saw her on her phone, talking frantically and pointing towards the parking lot. Suddenly, Jeff's strange sadistic haze collapsed and he regained his former self. "Fuck, let's go," he stated quickly, and he and Lou mounted their bikes and rose towards the parking lot exit. "Yeah, you better fucking run," Randy called behind them. Jeff and Lou paid no mind and pedaled away. A few blocks down the street, they dismounted their bikes and began to walk them together. At first, neither brother spoke. Then Lou broke the silence. "Jeff, thank you for standing up for me back there." "Thank you." "Yeah, those guys are pieces of shit. They had it coming," Jeff replied, looking down at the street as they walked. What happened? I've never seen you like that before." "I'm just defending myself, Lou. What was I supposed to do? Let them beat you up?" "I bet they go to our school. I bet we'll see them there and they won't have forgotten us." "Who cares? We didn't ask to move here. We didn't ask for any of this. Mom and Dad just wanted a bigger house and a nicer neighborhood. We were along for the ride whether we liked it or not. Think I give a shit what these rich asshole kids think of us? Jeff stated, and went back to looking at his feet. Think we'll get in trouble? Lou asked. For what? Defending on ourselves? Yeah, I guess you're right. They did start it, Lou answered, and to his brothers the matter was settled. However, things were far from over. They found that the trouble they'd believed they'd escaped was in fact waiting for them at their front door. Jeff and Lou saw the police cars well before they arrived at their driveway. 2 cop cars, both parked in front of their house. Both felt their stomachs drop. They all knew well why the police were there. The brothers entered the living room to see their parents sitting on the couch, the 2 cops standing up, leaning on the wall, and writing in their notebooks. "What did you 2 do?" Sheila practically screeched at the 2 boys as they entered the house. Lou, younger and less centered than Jeff, began to fall on the defensive. "Some kids tried to jump us down by the video store. They were messing with our bikes, and when we went outside they got in our faces." "That's not the way we heard it," Matt Woods interjected, his voice firm and ripe with anger and dissatisfaction. "No, Dad, that is what happened," Jeff began to explain. "We were down at a friendly video looking around the store when these 3 kids started riding on our bikes. All we did was walk outside and the kids started talking trash to us, trying to provoke a fight. When we tried to leave, one of them punched Lou." Finally, the 2 cops spoke. One of the 2 cops spoke. His name tag read Williamson. "Boys, we have some serious complaints about the 2 of you. For what eyewitnesses at the shopping center today, you started the confrontation with Randy and his friends." Jeff took notice at how familiar the cop's tone was when he said Randy's name. This was a small town, after all, and there was a good chance that this cop coached Randy in Little League or drank beers with his dad. Hell, it was even possible this cop could be an uncle to one of the bullies. "No, sir. We didn't start it, but they did. We just wanted our bikes. We just wanted to leave. They blocked us." Williamson continued, as though he'd heard nothing that Jeff said. "Several witnesses, including the video store clerk, say that you swung first. They said that the boys were riding your bikes, but let me ask you this. Did you chain your bikes to anything, or did you just leave them outside the store?" "What's that matter?" Blue demanded. "Well, son, if you just left your bikes lying around in the street, you can't exactly blame Randy and his friends for riding them, now can you? It'd be different had you secured them somehow, but you just left them there." "Mom, Dad, you're not buying this crap, are you? You know me and Lou don't start fights. When have we ever? These 3 punks messed with us, and if you can't tell that these cops are taking their sides, then you need to open your eyes." Jeff knew that he was skating on thin ice, but the rage, it demanded some sort of satisfaction. "Jeffrey, do not speak about these officers in that tone of voice. And do not speak to us that way either. Now it's pretty obvious that you 2 aren't happy here and that you miss your old home. But starting fights in the street isn't going to change anything." Jeff's mother snapped back. "Listen, boys. You're lucky none of the parents want to press charges. This will be reported as a simple scuffle between teenagers, but be advised, you're both on notice. This is a quiet town, not like Nollins. We don't tolerate this sort of behavior over here. If you see Randy, Keith, or Troy, I highly suggest you tell them you're sorry. We'll be keeping an eye on the both of you, so don't let this happen again. You don't want to have an arrest record, do you?" Jeff felt his anger bubble over, and he could not hold his tongue. "Who is he to you, Officer Williamson? Is Randy your nephew? Is he your friend's son? Or maybe you go over and screw his mom while you're on duty. Which one is it, officer?" "That's it. Both of you go to your rooms," Matt Woods apparently found that he wasn't mute after all, as he ordered his sons out of the room. Jeff and Lou walked up the stairs. However, they refused to hang their heads in shame or feel any regret. Neither of their parents spoke to them for the rest of the day. Jeff and Lou stayed upstairs, venting their shared frustration to each other. They'd been screwed over. Even at their young ages, they knew that. They took some solace in the fact that they at least hadn't been arrested or cited, but still, they saw what was really going on here. That cop. He was protecting Randy, Jeff whispered to his younger brother. No shit, his younger brother replied. We have to watch ourselves. We have to take care of each other. You saw it down there. Even our parents didn't stand up for us. Yeah, what the hell was up with that? Lou asked. Imagine their fucking image. That's what's up with that. All they cared about is fitting in here. They want to make sure they blend in with the rest of the Stepford families. No more fighting. If we see Randy or his two fuckhead friends again, we just walk away. Okay? But Jeff, you can kick the shit out of them. Why would we walk away? Lou asked. 'Cause I can't kick the shit out of the cops, Lou. I can't kick the shit out of Mom and Dad, and that's what would get us. Fucking Randy and his pals are protected here. You and me, we're not. So we see them, just avoid them. Okay? Please? Lou nodded. I feel like a little bitch, though. I owe Keith for hitting me. No, you don't. I paid him back for that. And paid his fat friend, too. I hope they just leave us alone now. Jeff sighed. Jeff and Lou didn't hear from their parents for the rest of that day. They remained in their rooms late into the night and finally came down to eat after they were sure their folks had gone to bed. Lou said that he felt relieved about that, but Jeff had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. Jeff was correct. The next morning, when the two brothers came downstairs together to eat breakfast, their parents were already sitting at the dining room table staring at the boys, approving of nothing that they saw. Sit down, Matt stated flatly. What's going on? Lou asked. Sit down, Matt stated again, anger dancing on the words. The boys complied without further question. Matt Woods began his diatribe. Whatever that was yesterday, beating up some kids for touching your bikes, mouthing off at the police, disrespecting both me and your mother, that stops today. We didn't beat anyone up for touching our bikes, Jeff blurted. Shut up, Jeff. This is a one-way conversation, his father barked. That kid, Randy Hayden, his father is a partner at my firm. Did you know that? Did you even think about that when you were assaulting him over your godforsaken bike? You just didn't think, did you, Jeff? Sheila added. How could I have known that? Matt continued. Well, I've spent the entire morning talking to his father on the phone. His dad is willing to let it all go, but shit, son, I have to deal with that at work now. You have any idea how much damage this could have done to me? To our family? Jeff felt the rage coming back, and fought with all his might to keep it stifled. Instead, he once more tried to appeal to the two adults' parental side. Mom, look at Lou's face. They split his lip. Can't you see? It's still swollen. Lou turned his head to better showcase the injury. Oh, God, Jeff. So some kid played a little rough with your brother. Is there any reason to fight them? I wanted to make friends with some of the other families in this neighborhood, but thanks to you, I just don't know. No sooner could Jeff or his brother construct a proper defense than their father began speaking again. So, your mother and I have talked this through. Since there are only a couple weeks of summer vacation left, we decided that Lou should spend the rest of the season at Aunt Marcy's place. We've already spoken to her, and she's willing to let him come out there and stay. Both Jeff and Lou were floored by this decision. Both boys began to protest at the same time, but they saw the look on their parents' faces. The decision had been made. "Why can't we just both go then?" Jeff asked, a last-ditch effort to at least get away from his parents. "Marcy doesn't want both of you there. She says you two are too rambunctious, and frankly, we agree," Sheila answered. And so it was. Lou was shuttled off to Aunt's place in Abita Springs, Louisiana, a place even smaller and duller than Mandeville, if one can believe that. Jeff watched his brother leave, and then walked back to his bedroom. He felt that rage. However, it began to feel almost pleasant to him. He couldn't explain it. He was furious at this turn of events. His parents had turned their backs on their own children. However, through it all, these new feelings he was experiencing weren't all terrible. This anger, for example, he could almost taste it. It felt like thick, sweet syrup stirring around in him. Of course, he knew the extra ingredient that would complete the flavor. That satisfying joy he'd felt when he'd had Randy and his friends on the ropes the day prior, that mixed perfectly with the anger to create some intoxicating product that Jeff almost craved now. He fell asleep, lying on his bed, thinking about that syrup, that thick, viscous, that seemed to work its way into the very fabric of his soul. He wanted it, yet he knew that it was destructive, that nothing good can come from sampling it again. Several days passed, and tensions were high between Jeff and his parents. Without Lou around, there was nothing for him to do except sit in his room and play video games. He went outside, but he didn't venture far from the home. He knew if Randy and his goons showed up again, it would likely result in another fight. For a few days, that worked well, and Jeff believed that he'd get through this. However, his mother changed all of that on an early Saturday morning. Jeff was awoken suddenly by sharp sunlight striking his face. He heard his mother humming, something that she rarely did. Even in his half-sleep state, he knew that humming was forced. She was doing it to wake him up, and figured that the added sunlight would get things done even faster. When she noticed Jeff's eyes cracking open, she sauntered over to his bed and began speaking in a tone that simply oozed false joviality. At first, Jeff had refused. Could his mother be serious? Did she really expect him to go over and make friends with Randy? He was still in bed when his mother stopped her incessant humming long enough to tell him to get up and get dressed. Once he'd learned why, he'd told her no. No way in hell. However, his mother was a shrewd manipulator, and she'd known exactly what would get the job done. She promised Jeff that if he did this for her, went over and made it work with Randy, that Lou could come home the next day. She'd sandbagged Jeff right into the corner with that one. He'd had no choice but to agree. A short time later, Jeff and his mother were pulling into Randy's driveway. Randy's mother answered the door. "Hi, you must be Jeff," she greeted. Jeff smiled wanly and confirmed that he was, in fact, who he was. "Hello, I'm Sheila Woods. Nice to finally meet you in person," Jeff's mother announced, barging past her son and extending a hand to Randy's mother. "Sheila, so pleased to meet you. I'm Bridget Hayden. I'm sorry to hear that our boys had a little mishap the other day. You know how it is with the teenagers, hormones going crazy and all. Randy never gets into fights, but he explained to me that Jeff and his brother are still new to the area and haven't quite learned how we do things in Mandeville yet. Isn't that right, Jeff?" Jeff couldn't resist a small jab. "Yeah, sorry about that, Miss Hayden. Me and Lou had no idea that it was okay for your son and his friends to mess with our bikes without asking." "Bridget, he gets that mouth from his father, never knows when to shut up. How about you and I go and have some coffee? You can tell me all about the great gossip around Manville while boys get to know each other the right way. Randy is in his room, Jeff, upstairs, second door to your left. I'm sure you'll hear the sound of his video games or something, Bridget stated with very little humor to her voice. Thank you, ma'am, Jeff answered, and entered the house. Jeff knocked and heard Randy answer with, Come in. Hey, so guess you heard our parents want us to hang out, get to know each other, Jeff stated with little conviction. Yeah, that's my mom, all right. She doesn't like drama. Honestly, I think she worries too much. I mean, I'm cool if you're cool. Jeff sat down on the floor next to Randy and struck up a conversation. So it turns out your dad is my dad's boss, and he freaked out about the fight in the parking lot. He was actually worried he'd get fired or something. My dad is like everyone's boss. Fucking hate it. I think half the kids at my school talk to me because their parents are somehow connected to my dad's firm. Why do you hate it? Jeff asked. Because it's fake. This whole damn town is fake. You'll figure it out as you go, but trust me, everyone who lives here is trying to pretend that they're something else. My parents make me do all this shit, all the trophies and stuff, so they can brag. That's it. Jeff smiled. I know how you feel. My dad had me in boxing classes a year ago because some coworker of his had a brother that worked at the place or something. As soon as that guy quit, though, I was out of that gym the next week. I wish it was that easy, Randy responded. I hate playing baseball, but my dad will sure have me out there again next summer. And the summer afterwards. It's like he knows I hate it, but wants to make sure I'm out there with his stupid company name on the back of my jersey. Randy, why did you and your friends fuck with our bikes the other day? I told you. This town is fake and boring as shit. There's nothing to do here. We have to find stuff to do. I mean, there's only so many times you can go hang out at the video store or ride the dirt paths in the woods. All the girls here are stuck up and all the stores close early. There's no mall and the movie theaters across town. We're just bored, man, so sorry for that, I guess. It's cool, Jeff replied. Guess I'm sorry for that too. Things went too far. You mean the fight? Randy asked. That shit was actually cool. Those guys Keith and Troy, they just leech on because of my dad. It's like I told you, I'm pretty sure their parents make them hang out with me. The afternoon went on, and Jeff soon forgot that this was a mandatory arrangement. He actually started to find himself liking Randy, sure. Their first encounter was a little sketchy, but he was coming around to the guy, finding that he wasn't so bad once his idiot friends were removed from the equation. About an hour later, things took a new turn. Jeff heard the twin pops of two-car doors shutting in near unison, then heard the engine start up. He dropped the game controller and peered out of Randy's bedroom window just in time to see his mother and Randy's mother backing out of the driveway. Our parents are leaving, Jeff said. About time. Figured my mom would eventually talk to your mom into going shopping or to get coffee or something like that. Jeff heard Randy pause the game. Hey, Jeff, come downstairs. I want to show you some cool stuff, Randy invited. And Jeff followed. Randy led Jeff out to the garage. It was hot in there, with the main door shut. The garage was well kept, though, and Jeff observed stacks of magazines underneath a workbench, as well as tools and various other utility items stacked about. Standing in the small closed-in garage with the late summer heat lingering about, Jeff began to feel a bit uneasy. Despite the fact that he and Randy had seemed to bond over the last few hours, Jeff couldn't ignore a sense that things were different now that the adults were gone. What did you want to show me? Jeff asked. Hold on, let me get it, Randy replied, moving the magazines out to reveal a small red box. Jeff watched as Randy removed the box and opened it. Check it out. My dad's flare gun, Randy announced, and waved the red tubular gun about. Whoa, be careful with that, Jeff shouted, more out of shock than real concern. It's fine, dude. Don't be a pussy. Not even loaded, Randy said. However, Jeff watched as he fished one of the flares out of the black compartment. Randy then continued to fiddle with the flare gun, popping it open and loading a flare. Now it's loaded, he announced. My dad showed me how to use this last year when we went out boating. Sometimes I take it out back and shoot flares at the trees. Maybe this time I don't need a tree. The change in Randy's voice and demeanor was impossible to ignore. Okay, well, cool gun. Well, let's get back in the house, though. It's hot out here. Plus, I'm getting hungry. What do you have to eat? However, as Jeff turned to walk through the small door leading back into the house, his path was suddenly blocked by two more familiar faces. Where you think you're going, Jeffrey? The fat kid, Troy, blurted out as he and Keith stepped forward and into the garage. It took you two assholes long enough to get here. I had to babysit this faggot all day, Randy shouted. A wicked joy was present in his words. I'm sorry, Randy, but Keith here had to mow his front yard before his parents would let him come out, Troy said, a sheepish tone in his voice. It's cool. We're here now, Keith said. What the fuck is going on? Jeff asked, staring at Randy. He noticed that Randy still had the flare gun in his hands. I'll tell you what's going on, Jeff. You owe Keith and Troy an apology for what you did. You sucker punched them and ran away. Didn't even have the balls to fight them fair, so now you're going to pay them what you owe. I'm not going to fight you, okay? I'm done with that shit, Jeff replied as he glanced around the room for an exit. You're right about that. You're not going to fight. You're going to stand there and let my boys get their licks in. Then I get mine, and when that's done, you get the fuck out of my house. I'll tell my mom that you got sick and walked home, and after that, if you see us again, you better walk the other way. I'm not going to stand here and get hit by you or your friends. So just let me go home. How about that? I'll tell my mom that we're cool and everyone wins. Okay? Jeff asked. Randy then raised the flare gun towards Jeff. No. You stay, pussy. You stay and take your licks. Jeff felt that sensation once more. That sick, rich, dark matter that swirled about inside him. He could taste it now. It was heaven. In his mind, he imagined himself diving into it, swimming in it, letting it swallow him whole. He looked around, and the sensation only grew. He saw Randy standing there holding the flare gun. It was limp in his hands, though, and the hammer was not cocked back. Jeff knew that Randy had no intention of firing it. He looked over at Keith, skinny and pathetic, a kid born to follow. Troy, fat and sweaty, breathing a bit heavy from his walkover, and of course, in the middle of it all, Jeff himself. He felt that pleasure begin to mix with the rage, forming the perfect product. He tried to avoid sampling it. He knew that only regret could come from indulging in it. However, when it was placed so close, when the aroma and the promise of that sweet, savory flavor was only inches away, Jeff found that he could no more stand against it than a ship in the ocean could stand against a typhoon. Jeff began to smile. Why are you smiling at me? You queer for me or something? Randy asked, a slight nervous tinge in his voice. Am I smiling, Randy? I guess it's because I'm just having so much fun, Jeff announced, and suddenly lunged towards the unprepared kid holding the flare gun. Jeff struck Randy once in the nose. Randy's arms dropped, yet he kept hold of the flare gun. Jeff, without even needing to look, realized that Troy and Keith had actually taken a step back, instead of advancing as they should have. Jeff delivered another strong blow to Randy's jaw, causing the boy to drop to the floor. Jeff now turned his attention to Troy and Keith, the two tough kids that had yet to actually make so much as a move in his direction. Troy actually backed up a step and stumbled over the stack of magazines that Randy had moved earlier. Jeff took this opportunity and stepped forward once again, introducing Troy's round belly to his fist. Troy tried to stay on his feet, but Jeff's punches, combined with the stumble over the magazines, caused Troy to fall back, landing hard and striking his head on the concrete slab of the garage floor. Keith was actually trying to back away. However, Jeff was currently standing between him and the only exit to the garage, since the carport door was closed. Jeff took 2 quick steps towards the skinny kid and felt the most intense joy at seeing Keith stagger backwards, knocking his back into the wall. The perfect blend of pleasure, control, and rage had come together. Jeff felt as though he was floating above the world. Somewhere in his mind, he knew that there would be hell to pay for this, but at that exact moment in time, he couldn't care less. He didn't care about Lou. He didn't care about being arrested. He didn't care if his dad got fired. All he cared about, in that fraction of time, was hurting Keith. Keith tried to make a run for it, hoping to squeeze through the small gap between Jeff and the door. However, Jeff clipped him a hard right hand to his face, causing Keith to stagger back again. Jeff could see that his knees were buckling and took a full advantage. He moved in, pinning Keith to the wall, and began to deliver blow after blow to the skinny kid's stomach. Keith's eyes became as large as saucers. Once satisfied, Jeff stepped back and watched in demonic glee as Keith slowly slid down the wall, gasping for air. Randy got back to his feet, but seemed to have no idea what to do. "We done now, Randy? We good? Or do you and your friends need more?" Jeff mocked. No more. We're cool." "And how about you, assholes?" Jeff asked. It was Randy's idea," Keith said weakly. "Yeah, man, we didn't even want to," Troy agreed. The debate may have continued, but the sound of a returning car broke the tension. "Oh, shit, my mom's back," Randy shouted, his voice cracking in a humorous way. It seemed that the previous tough guy had all but shrunk back to a scared child. "So we'll just say that we were all hanging out," Keith replied. "No, the fucking flare gun. If she finds out that I messed with it, I'm screwed." "So put it back," Jeff suggested. The sensation of rage was fading again, and he felt control returning. "Yeah, grab the magazines, please," Randy begged. Jeff found that he rather liked that tone, the begging, whipped dog mentality. Jeff was paying no attention to Randy. He was down on the floor, calmly gathering the magazines. He didn't really care if Randy got in trouble or not. However, if his mother returned and found trouble, he feared that Lou may not be able to return home as promised. Everything else happened in a flash, both literally and figuratively. Randy, now in a panic over the trouble he'd be in if he was caught playing with the flare gun, had begun to sweat. As his hands frantically clawed over the gun, his thumb pushed the hammer back unintentionally. He didn't even notice that the gun was cocked. He was turning it over in his hands, trying quickly to disarm it. Then he heard the sound of keys in the front door, and he knew that he only had seconds now to hide it. Everything else happened in slow motion. The gun slipped from Randy's sweaty hands as he attempted to rotate it once more. He saw it fall to the floor, seeming to float to the ground rather than fall. Jeff, busy stacking the magazines, had only enough time to register Randy's shocked gasp. He turned to look in the boy's direction. just in time to see the bright red flare gun hit the floor. The gun discharged, launching a speeding ball of fire directly into Jeff's face. Jeff felt the hot flash of heat and pain tear across the left side of his face. After the initial registry of agony, there was no more thinking. Jeff began to scream, clutching the left side of his face and rolling around on the floor. For a while he forgot everything as he was plunged into that dark, rich syrup once more, the rage almost serving to dull the pain. When he finally did come to a stable level of alertness, he realized he was in a hospital room. Half of his face was bandaged. He knew that much. He wanted to open his eyes and speak, let his family know he was awake, but the drug still had a firm hold. He was awake, but not quite yet functioning. He could hear several familiar voices, though. "Is he going to be okay, Doctor?" Jeff's mother asked. "Oh, yes, ma'am, your son will be fine. However, he will have a lengthy road to recovery and will need your support. That flare struck his face and caused third-degree burns on his left side." "How bad is his eye?" Jeff's father asked. "Hard to say at this point. He'll need to see an optometrist for further review, but the damage appears quite severe." "And his face? What about his face?" Jeff's mother asked, sounding deeply concerned. "Well, we were able to clean and treat the injury in time, so you've no concern for infection or anything of that matter. We'll want him on antibiotics for a while, and he'll need to have the wound cleaned and dressed on a regular basis, but all in all, your son got very lucky. The damage could have been more severe." "Doctor," his mother began again, "what if there's permanent damage? What do we do about that?" "As I said, an optometrist will have to explain the eye." Sheila Woods interrupted the doctor, sounding more agitated before. "You're not listening.
Your base belong to
Not
us.
the eye, his face. What do we do to correct his face?" she demanded. "Well, ma'am, we have treated his face, like I said. There shouldn't be a risk of infection so long as you—" She cut him off again. "Not the infection, his appearance. What can we do for that?" "Miss Woods, that's hardly a concern at this point. Once he is healed and back on his feet, you can possibly explore the plastic surgery to repair some of the damage, but honestly, right now, we can't waste concern on how he looks. What is important is that your son is healthy. He can expect to be back home in a few days, maybe sooner." Jeff's dad spoke again. "Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Can we have some time alone, please? My wife and I need to speak." "Certainly," the doctor replied. "Lou, why don't you go down to the hospital cafeteria and get yourself a snack?" Matt Woods suggested. "But I want to be here in case Jeff wakes up," Lou replied. "Lou, they told us that Jeff is heavily medicated. They don't expect him to wake up any time tonight. So just go. And if he does come around, we'll have you paged," Matt replied. Jeff heard the door open and close as Lou exited. His parents both let out a long, shaky sigh, but Jeff was starting to believe it was not a sigh of relief, but rather one of stress. "We're going to have to homeschool him now, Matt. That's just what it's going to be. We're going to have to keep him at home," he heard his mother rant, her voice sounding frantic. "What? I mean, he probably won't be able to start school right on time, but I doubt he'll miss a whole year," his father responded, trying to maintain a calmer voice. "I'm not talking about that, Matt. I'm not worried about him missing a week or two of school. I mean his face, Matt. You heard what the doctor said. His face is going to be disfigured," Sheila argued back. "We don't even know the full extent of the damage yet, Sheila. It could be minor. It could possibly heal, and you heard what he said. Plastic surgery could be an option in time." "In time? What kind of time? A year? 2 years? What about in the meantime? People are going to see him and they're going to talk. Is that what you want? He's going to be a pariah. You think anyone is going to want to have him around their kids? Jeff was hearing all of this, just letting it soak in slowly. As his mind absorbed the words, he felt that rage return. Sick, rich, dark. That syrup of raw, primal emotion. He wanted to scream at his mother, to tell her to shut up. That he was the one lying here, half of his face burned, blind in one eye, all thanks to her, forcing him to go over to Randy's house. He wanted to ask her why she left. Why she went off to go shopping or to have her nails done or whatever it was that she did. He wanted to know why she'd leave him alone with a kid who just days before tried to jump him and his brother. He wanted to know how she could care more about his appearance than the fact that he was lying in the hospital. However, there was still so much more that he wanted to know as well. He wanted to know how much more his mother hated him. How much more she saw him now as, how did she put it, a pariah. He wanted to continue to swim in the thick pool of dark hatred that was starting to form from the rage and anger. That was a new one now. Before it was anger. Then it was anger mixed with pleasure. But now it was anger mixed with hatred. And while he certainly longed to be free of it, while he most certainly preferred the false sense of love and concern he'd believed he'd heard from her before, he also wanted to test it out a bit more. He also began to wonder, how well would this new recipe blend with pleasure? How would it feel? Matt Woods began to speak again. I just can't believe he shot himself in the face with a flare gun. I always thought Jeff was more responsible than that. Don't even get me started on that, Sheila replied. I couldn't believe it with Randy and his friends explaining to the medics and the police how it all happened. Randy was just trying to show Jeff around the house and wanted to show him the collection of magazines his dad kept in the garage. You know, boys. He was probably just hoping that a couple of playboys would be in there or something. And then he said Jeff found the box containing the flare gun and just wouldn't stop playing around with it. You should have heard what those other boys, Matt. They told me they practically begged Jeff to put it down before he got hurt. He just had to show off. I just don't know where we went wrong, Matt. I thought us moving out here to a nice, quiet neighborhood would make everyone happy. Jeff, though, he just wants to fight us on everything. And while all that came together in Jeff's mind, he continued to swim in that black ichor of hatred and rage. The morphine drip added a nice touch of euphoria. Jeff could almost see himself plunging into the thick, syrupy waters of hatred and emerging changed. Each dip brought him so much twisted pleasure, and that was when he finally understood. He could sample the pleasure now, not because he was enjoying what was happening, but because he knew he could enjoy what was to come. Just as the doctor predicted, Jeff was scheduled to go home a few days later. During his time at the hospital, he never asked to see his face. It wasn't until the last day that he finally asked for a mirror. The nurse had come in to change his bandages, as was routine. She was a pleasant woman. She spoke to him, asked how he was doing. He enjoyed her visits. So on the final day, when she arrived to clean and dress his face, he asked to see himself. Are you sure, sweetheart? Would you like me to call in your parents first? She asked.
No, thank you, Jeff replied. I think I want to see it for myself first, without them standing over me.
I understand, she replied honestly, without a hint of pretension. Once the bandages were off, she handed him a small hand mirror. Would you like me to step out of the room? She asked. Jeff ignored her and looked at himself, taking stock of the damage. Sure enough, his face was a mess. The entire left side, at least. The flare had struck him traveling upwards and burned a scar into his left cheek that extended to his eye. At first glance, it almost looked like he was smiling on that side. The scar was still bright red, and burned tissue spread out on either side. Once it arrived at his eye, the news did not get any better. His eye was white, just a lifeless bulb plugged into his face. He closed his right eye and found that he could see nothing from the left eye at all. The scar continued up the left side of his forehead. The damage was less severe there, however. The hair on the left side of his head had been burned off, leaving a few strands to stick up here and there. I'm sorry, sweetie, but I have to put clean bandages on, she told him. Jeff smiled.
It's okay. There'll be plenty of time for me to admire myself later.
There was no joy from his parents on the ride home, or upon arrival. They spoke very little, and there was a tension in the car that simply wouldn't fade out. As for Lou, he was thrilled that his brother was okay, but he didn't know what to say concerning the damage to his face. So after asking a few questions about the accident and the recovery, he fell silent as well. They walked into their home at dusk, and Lou asked about dinner. He suggested they let Jeff pick a place to celebrate his return home. Just go to sleep. Both of you boys. Go to sleep, Sheila remarked. She and her husband both retreated to their bedrooms as well. To argue or feel sorry for themselves, who knew? Jeff and Lou didn't speak much that night. Jeff spent most of the evening staring at himself in the mirror. He kept pulling back the bandages and looking at the scars. Lou wanted to see them too, but felt it might be impudent to ask. I'm glad you're home, Jeff. I really missed you, and I'm glad you're okay, Lou said to Jeff as he stared at himself.
I'm not okay, Lou. And neither are you. None of us are, really. There's a sickness here. And the only difference is, now my sickness shows on the outside as well, Jeff replied, his voice as flat as that on an answering machine.
What are you talking about? Lou asked.
One day, you'll see it too. This is what happens, though. This is what happens when it all falls down, Jeff said, still peeking behind his bandages.
Jeff, I don't know what you're trying to say, Lou responded. Jeff didn't reply, though, and after several moments, Lou left him alone. Lou went down to his parents' bedroom and knocked on the door. What is it? The mother of the asked. Mom, I think Jeff is acting weird. You might want to come talk to him.
Go away, Lou. Leave your mother alone, his father's voice answered.
Lou, being young, had no other ideas, so he turned to his bedroom and left. He didn't know that those would be the last words he'd ever hear his parents speak to him. That night, Sheila and Matt Woods awoke together.
both being light sleepers. It took a little to bring them out of slumber. The sudden removal of their blanket, as it was snatched from their bed, did the trick just fine. They awoke to see a small light coming from the half-bath that was situated in their master bedroom. The door was cracked only slightly, and the light source was weak. It could make out a human shape, standing over their bed, though. What is going on? Sheila grumbled. As their vision came into focus, they realized their son was standing before them. Matt reached over and flipped on the lamp next to their bed. Jeff was standing there, his bandages off, his disfigured face beaming down at them, with a long kitchen knife clutched in his right hand. What are you doing, son? Matt asked, his mind still trying to shake out the cobwebs of sleep. He's got a knife! Sheila screamed, grabbing at her husband's arm. Matt kept his composure, though. Sheila, it's probably the painkillers. He likely got up and got disoriented. Relax, for Christ's sake. Jeff tilted his head to one side, still not speaking. He stared hard at his father, slowly bringing the knife up, ensuring that he saw it as well.
Drink it down in one breath.
Drink, 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 drink.
Son, what are you doing? Matt asked. Scaring you? Jeff replied, with no emotion in his voice. Matt, do something, Sheila pleaded. Okay, son, I realize you've been through a lot, but you need to go back to bed. I'm gonna call the doctor in the morning, and Jeff moved quickly across to access his father's side of the bed, his head moving about, alternating between a normal-looking young man and the deformed ghoul that had been lurking in the shadows. Okay, Iskun, you scared me. Is that what you wanted? Matt asked, adjusting to the middle of the bed to put distance between himself and his son. Good. Now I can start hurting you. Jeff spoke again with no emotion. His father had time to utter a single syllable, most likely to ask another question, to try and reason with his son. Jeff, however, gave him time to do no more than that. He lunged onto the bed, driving a knife into his father's stomach. Matt attempted to fend Jeff off, but the wound to his midsection rendered him into shock, and his arms fell to the side. Jeff could hear his mother screaming, but paid no mind. He wanted to finish with his father first. Removing the knife, Jeff stabbed down into his stomach 3 more times, quickly. His father gasped and coughed out blood. His body jerked and twitched each time the knife found its mark. After the 3rd time, Matt Woods lay still. Sheila had backed up against the headboard of the bed. She wanted to climb down, make a run for it, but she'd balled herself up between the headboard and the end table. In her frantic state of terror and confusion, she couldn't figure out how to do something as simple as dismount a bed. Jeff, why are you doing this to us? She asked feebly. Randy started it. You must have known that, but you ignored it. Lou had a busted lip. You must have seen that, but you ignored it. I was shot in the face with a flare gun, but you believed Randy. Why? So you could fit in? Jeff asked in a low, almost growling voice. No, baby, I believed you. It was just your father's job, and we're new here, and oh God, Jeff, please, his mother begged. Tell me about homeschool, Mom. Tell me about all how you don't want to send me out in public because of my face. Tell me how none of the other kids will want to be my friend. Now none of their parents will want to be yours. Tell me about that, Mom. Tell me how nice it's going to be you homeschooling me. Jeff, please, please, I was just stressed. I was worried about you. That's all. Please, I love you. Mom, I think you should take your own advice. You know, what you told Lou when we got home tonight. He wanted to do something nice to welcome me home. Do you remember what you told us to do instead? Jeff asked, as he now crawled over, cornering his mother on the bed. What did I say? She asked, the question coming out barely a whimper. Go to sleep! Jeff snarled and drove the knife into his mother's chest. He stabbed her over and over again, and as he did, he finally found that perfect recipe, that heavenly blend, that rage and hate and pleasure all mixed into that one perfect formula. And for a while, Jeff became lost in it all. Jeff opened his brother's bedroom door, not surprised to find his brother asleep. He had dozed off with headphones in, so he slept through all the shouting. That was fine with Jeff. It was easier that Lou not to hear all that. Jeff sat down on his brother's bed and nudged him slightly. It took a moment, but Lou finally opened his eyes and looked up. Jeff removed his earphones for him. "You're free now, Lou?" He spoke softly. "Jeff? What are you talking about?" Lou mumbled, still half asleep. "You'll see in the morning. Just wanted to let you know how I love you. You've been my best friend. Remember that, okay?" Thanks. I love you too. Now, let me go back to sleep," Lou replied, already dozing off again. Jeff smiled and stood up, and as he left the room, he looked back at his sleeping brother one last time before he vanished into the night. And that was the Jeff the Killer reboot, written by Kay Banning Kellum. Oh boy, that was a long one. Anyway, hi Darth. Thank you for the hydrate. I was trying really hard not to break when you played the thing, and I was like, okay, well, I suppose I do need to take a sip, but I have been taking sips in between when I thought I could, naturally do so. But yeah, the reboot's actually pretty good. I actually rather like that one. It was very well done. Oh yeah, Gateway of the Mind, I think you mentioned, Beb. Three minutes of reading? That's not bad. Yeah. Blah. And Under the Ice. I'll see if I can find Under the Ice. It's probably here somewhere and I just don't know. I haven't come across it yet. Not that I've been looking particularly hard. It's on the same page? Alright. Yeah, then I must have just missed it at some point. Anyway. Ooh, pardon me. Gateway of the Mind. Written by Anonymous. In 1983, a team of deeply pious scientists conducted a radical experiment in an undisclosed facility. The scientists had theorized that a human without access to any senses or ways to perceive stimuli would be able to perceive the presence of God. They believed that the five senses clouded our awareness of eternity, and without them, a human could actually establish contact with God by thought. An elderly man who claimed to have nothing left to live for was the only test subject to volunteer. To purge him of all his senses, the scientists perform a complex operation in which every sensory nerve connection to the brain was surgically severed. Although the test subject retained full muscular function, he could not see, hear, taste, smell, or feel. With no possible way to communicate with or even sense the outside world, he was alone with his thoughts. Scientists monitored him as he spoke aloud about his state of mind in jumbled, slurred sentences that he couldn't even hear. After 4 days, the man claimed to be hearing hushed, unintelligible voices in his head. Assuming it was an onset of psychosis, the scientists paid little attention to the man's concerns. Two days later, the man cried that he could hear his dead wife speaking with him, and even more, he could communicate back. The scientists were intrigued, but were not convinced until the subject started naming dead relatives of the scientists. He repeated personal information to the scientists that only their dead spouses and parents would have known. At this point, a sizable portion of scientists left the study. After a week of conversing with the deceased through his thoughts, the subject became distressed, saying that the voices were overwhelming. In every waking moment, his consciousness was bombarded by hundreds of voices that refused to leave him alone. He frequently threw himself against the wall, trying to elicit a pain response. He begged the scientists for sedatives so he could escape the voices by sleeping. This tactic worked for 3 days, until he started having severe night terrors. The subject repeatedly said that he could see and hear the deceased in his dreams. Only a day later, the subject began to scream and claw at his non-functioning eyes, hoping to sense something in the physical world. The hysterical subject now said the voices of the dead were deafening and hostile, speaking of hell and the end of the world. At one point he yelled, "No heaven, no forgiveness," for 5 hours straight. He continually begged to be killed, but the scientists were convinced that he was close to establishing contact with God. After another day, the subject could no longer form coherent sentences. Seemingly mad, he started to bite off chunks of flesh from his arm.
The scientists rushed into the test chamber and restrained him to a table so he could not kill himself. After a few hours of being tied down, the subject halted his struggling and screaming. He stared blankly at the ceiling as teardrops silently streaked across his face. For 2 weeks, the subject had to be manually rehydrated due to the constant crying. Eventually, he turned his head and, despite his blindness, made focused eye contact with a scientist for the first time in the study. He whispered, "I have spoken with God, and he has abandoned us." His vital signs stopped. There was no apparent cause of death. And that was Gateway of the Mind by Anonymous. Bet you can pull off a dark via voiceover of that. I think it would work really well, I think, with your accent and maybe the Russian sleep experiment. No, it's not quite the same. But I think it would give it a lot of oomph, so to speak. Shivers. I'll try this one day when you have time. By all means, it's actually quite fun. Uh-oh. Just need a good program. I mean, I use, like, you know, Audacity, which is free, and I've used Audacity for years. Ah, here it is. There's like several with the there's like several stories with the name Under the Ice. Well, there's at least 2. Is it the one from 2016?
All your base are belong to us.
Oh my god! It's Inez Inkazure! Welcome! And Pete Tony! Oh my god! Oh my goodness!
All your base are belong to us.
Whoa! Oh my goodness! I guess I'm really popular today. Everybody wants to hear me narrate creepy stories. Hi, everybody! Welcome, everyone. My name is Stitches. People came because they all wanted to hear your scary story. Thanks, babe. I appreciate that. Raid! Yes, hello everyone, welcome! For those of you who are brand new, hi, welcome. As I said before, my name is Maid of Stitches. You can call me Maid, you can call me Stitches, I don't care whichever one you want. And we are doing my usual, normally this would be the last Friday of the month, but since next week is Thanksgiving, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be busy, I decided to do it this week. We had a poll, and Creepy Stories with Stitches was the one that won. Stitches, you're new. Welcome, Calmaid. I'm so glad that you're here. Yeah, you guys actually just missed me doing, we did Jeff the Killer just like a couple minutes ago. But it was like the reboot. It was really well done, actually. Very well written. But I did creepypasta readings on Halloween, and apparently I like to think that I'm good enough to continue. And apparently the poll, people who voted in the poll thought the same. This is my first time here ever. You need the link for Under the Ice? Possibly. I tried to use the one that you sent me, but it didn't work. There are two stories that I'm seeing that say Under the Ice. One is from 2016 and the other's from 2014. And please ignore the dog barking in the background. But anyway, guys, welcome in. Glad you could be here. Feel free to, cuddle up with a friend, grab a flashlight, and get ready to be spookified. The 2016 one? Okay. Here we are. The 2016 one. Okay, good. Yep. Get those pillows ready. Start building those forts. Let's go. Also, this isn't my usual avatar. My normal avatar is actually quite much cuter and friendly looking. But I figured this one would be more appropriate for creepy readings. Alright, you guys all tucked in? Ready? This one. Okay. The Super Saiyan form of Stitches. Perhaps. Alright. I'm gonna check the 2014 one. The one from 2014 has a better rating, but it's not okay for narration. Boo. The one that is okay for narration has like a 6.98 rating. Yeah, in the dark timeline. I guess we'll have to. Nobu has nothing to do with this. Eh? Anyway, so this one is called Under the Ice. Written by Richard S. As I lay in my sick bed with my mind muddled, I find it quite impossible to find motivation to continue on and lack the focus to return to my work. Ever since a fantastic yet terrible event, I have bordered on mania. Now I feel the urge to relate my story to others, perhaps to ward against the vile allure of knowledge. Perhaps it is just to pass the time until my end. Before I embarked on a journey that would change my perspective and indeed my life, I had been a historian. And though I was not affiliated with any particular historical society, I did achieve some note. My interest was mainly anthropological, and I spent much of my existence adventuring from place to place. The intricacies of obscure cultures and languages ignited a spark of curiosity within me. I was noted for possessing an impressive collection of tomes and artifacts contained within my serene study. The bleak day of which my descent into madness began was of little excitement. I had returned from an expedition to Siberia 4 days prior. I was to examine a carved tablet, presumably crafted by a Neanderthal hand. However, it was revealed to be a mere hoax. Having no current project, I gazed idly at Goya's Saturn devouring his sun painting, as I often did. It was afforded a central resting place in my study due to my inexplicable fancy for it. Not long after my contemplation began, I heard a shrill ring and mechanically answered the telephone's summons. I immediately recognized the voice of my longtime compatriot, Lawrence. Lawrence had accompanied me on a vast majority of expeditions and was surely the adventurous spirit of our duo, always seeking out more work and new challenges. His call was not wholly unexpected. What he conveyed to me was incredibly strange. He claimed that Antarctica had suffered a vicious summer, and a considerable amount of ice had melted in some areas. The peculiar thing was, in one certain area on the southern coast, the uttermost towers of an ancient cathedral had been spied. I listened with disbelief. No civilization could exist beneath the suffocating ice. Surely the sighting was an illusion, a trick of the light. Yet Lawrence assured me with vigor that what he spoke of was so. I reluctantly agreed to accompany his exploration. Gathering and purchasing items for preparation of the voyage spanned the long hours of the next 3 days. Procuring cold weather gear was not an issue, as my previous trip had been to Siberia, and this freed up a modest amount of time. The excess time allowed me to think on the expedition more, and when the time to leave was upon me, I was in considerably high spirits. I thought that maybe it was possible someone had once inhabited this alleged icy citadel. Glancing at Goya's masterwork for the last time, I exited my dwelling and proceeded to the prearranged meeting point. We boarded a ship headed for Buenos Aires, and from there we would make the trip to Antarctica. I had now an almost tangible sense of excitement. Lawrence did not hesitate to chide me for my earlier incredulity. In Argentina, we resupplied, and it was then that I first met an interesting member of the crew headed for the glacial plains. He was a large man named Mikhail, and spent much of his time drawing and writing in his notebook. He had a vivid imagination and was very much superstitious. Thus he relished our current mission. The long, arduous voyage across the sea was initially uneventful. Of strange note, however, is that we got closer to the frigid continent, my dreams took on a strange quality. Mikhail seemed to be affected the most, as he was by far the most sensitive of the crew. His drawings and writings were more sinister than usual, yet he could offer no explanation. We encountered a strangely abandoned ship that was in excellent condition, besides the fact that it had no fuel left. We looted it for provisions and left. Mikhail seemed strangely entranced by the sea after that incident. His artwork had already shown marine influence before, but now it was an obsession. Later that day, Mikhail was nowhere to be found.
and I remember strange ripples in the water I had seen shortly after we passed by the ship. I watched the stars that night, yet they offered no solace. The only thing I could think of was the vast emptiness of space, and it terrified me. When we landed and breathed in the dry, frigid air, morale was very low. The loss of Mikhail hit everyone hard, as he was a friendly character. We could also see that a storm was building. We quickly set up our tents, mostly to find the embrace of warm air. Lawrence inexplicably fell ill that night, and as the moon reached the zenith, the storm struck with full fury. I noted a sound, much like a screeching call, and attributed it to the fierce winds. When the morning sun lazily emerged from the clouds, it facilitated my view of the vast Arctic landscape, heaped snow from the blizzard creating small hills and valleys. Another member of our crew had gone missing, and no one could account for him. The crew assembled a search team to discover his fate, bidding me to remain with Lawrence. Quickly ascertaining that he required no aid, I set off towards the supposed sunken city, just to catch a glimpse. All doubt left me when I saw the great spires reaching towards the heavens. The light reflecting off the highest steeple was almost hypnotizing. I trudged through the ice with renewed purpose, forgetting completely about Lawrence and the crew. My first challenge was to locate some entrance or weak spot in the thick ice to breach the frozen berg. As I was exploring the surrounding, I stepped on a deceptively thin layer of ice and fell through, opening the way to the forgotten city. What would lead me into the sunken cathedral was a long corridor with a massive staircase. I found the corridor odd. It was clearly made for beings no less than 8 feet tall, and the material used to construct it was unearthly. The stone was of an ivory color, but shimmering, as if some liquid were coating it. I also found it strange how well kept it was. It exuded an air of utter ancientness, but looked as if I should see another people traversing the hall. It was so well maintained. My wonder was displaced as, when entering into a vast room with many doorways, a charnel scent rose from the depths of the city. The room contained great arches, hinting that the city was intentionally buried under the ice. They were engraved with exquisite bas-reliefs and inscriptions which I could not comprehend. A warmth and faint light was transmitted from a stairway in between 2 giant statues of bird creatures. As I approached, I heard a papery rustling sound from within, and my curiosity took control. The foul stench pierced my nose once again, invading my sensibilities. The stairs seemed to lead to a housing area, and a vast manor loomed directly before me. Pressing my hand to the stone door, I noticed that the stone itself radiated heat. Also of strange note, I could hear the sound of rushing water, hinting that I had traveled farther than I initially thought. As I entered, I caught sight of a vast library through an open doorway and proceeded through. And that is where the creature resided. The creature was enveloped in feathers whose likeness were closer to that of scales. Even hunched over in its ornate chair, I could tell the creature was at least 8 feet tall. Its beak was monstrous in size, and appeared to be sufficient enough to break through the tough stones surrounding us. His hands and feet contained large, intimidating talons. He was putrid yellow in color, flecked with black and the occasional rust-colored feather. He looked up to me in a startlingly casual way, which confounded me. What was even stranger was that he was capable of speaking. The manner in which he spoke was quite bird-like, as I suspected. His tone rapidly changed as he spoke, and it was in short, quick bursts. He greeted me, as if this event was normal, and bade me to view his archives. My trepidation increased as I scanned the titles. Some were of very recent print. I recalled the offensive scent and abandoned ship, shuddering. He took no note of my discomfort. Much was gleaned from the creature. He articulated his name in a fashion that cannot be properly pronounced with human tongue, and the best I could manage was Groth. Groth told me of his species, the Golka, and of their numerous great cities crafted in the inky black recesses of ice. He spoke of strange rituals they performed in a ghoulish tone. His candor startled me as he spoke of things which brought the occult to mind. At last he removed his hands from my lap, revealing that the book he had been poring over when I entered was in fact the dreaded Necronomicon. With a glint in his eyes, he beckoned me to follow him. We entered a room which was shrine-like in appearance. The place of worship was a great monolith, exquisitely carved. Directly in front of it was a pedestal with grotesque statuettes perched upon it. I was struck with a wave of nervousness and wished only to escape. However, I could not will myself to move. The hideous Golka began chanting from the vile tome in his possession. His voice strangely maintained its normal quality as he spoke. As the last undulating wave of his words left Groth's throat, the monolith underwent change. On the top of the vast obelisk opened a chasm, or portal, of pure darkness. The inky blackness was so intense that my eyes ached, and I knew it to be the very cosmos. The eternal and deafening silence filled me with dread. Then emerged the star-born being with images of the future. The sight of the indescribable creature introduced me to a madness so intense it is impossible to chronicle. The mass of shadow and eyes revealed the future of mankind. When it descended from the stars to claim the earth as its own, the downfall of humanity would commence. The Golka and other creatures would claw their way out from the depths to liberate the world from humanity. My knees quake, and instinct forced me to take action. I ran back through the manor and out of the city. I made no note to the icy gale chilling my flesh. A search party was sent out by Lawrence when I did not return, and they found me stumbling and rambling madly not far from camp. I told of my experience on the way back to my home, but none would heed my words. I write this from my room in my psychiatric ward to explain my actions. When the star spawn comes to Earth, humanity will be reduced to primal and barbaric ways. Thus, I shall cast myself from the window. Even now, I can hear the call of the thing which should not be, calling from the unfathomable cold of space, and the depths of madness. And that was Under the Ice by Richard S. Yay! We did it! That is very Lovecraftian. It's not the creature that terrifies you. It's the sudden knowledge that you shouldn't have. Hi, Seaver. You're late. Nah. Yes. Special eye appointment. You should probably let me know how that goes. Pray for my hubby. He needs to get his eyes checked. Alright, I think I have enough energy and voice power to do one more. My heading and go alone. What can I do about it? We're countries away. There is an entire ocean between the two of us. What do you want me to do? Give you a sec. Alright, while you're doing that, I need to use the restroom, so I will let you pick out a story while I do that.
time to say hi to everybody? Is that it? You're just going to... Just gonna wind around. And come up. You know you want to. No, you're just going to crawl across my desk while I'm reading, is that it? Oh, Ben drowned. I'm not Mama Stitches. I'm regular Stitches. Not that I blame you, I do sound very much like my mother. We have confused many a person. Never mind, it's Lady. Oh, yeah, I was talking to Lady. Aw, Seafer. No. Like, legit, I thought I was gonna go the same way. I was like, I'll just be the cool aunt for my siblings. I was like, I'll just be the cool aunt who has a farm. They can come and play with the bunnies. It took me well over 20 years to find someone to date, so it's never too late. And funnily enough, Ty and I met because I started streaming. Isn't that weird? Yeah, you are. Also in America. Let me see how long it would take to do Bend Around, because from what I remember, that's a pretty long one. Woo! Okay, yeah. Estimated reading time is 47 minutes. Candle Cove. Okay, that's a little bit better. I remember Candle Cove. Maybe at some point I'll do a special reading of Bend Round. Man, it's been so long since I listened to a reading of Bend Round. Like, really long. I think I listened to it when I was still in high school. For context, I am almost a full decade out of college. In fact, yeah, I graduated in 2016. So, yeah, next year. Should do something like that when you visit next time. Yo! Cute couple things. Telling scary stories together. I was looking to see who the author... Okay. I see it now. Wondering, how did y'all get married? Technically, we're not married yet. We're just fiancés. He proposed to me this year, actually. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how we're gonna do the wedding thing. Considering we're both in 2 different countries. You're just in the stars.
Also, I fear that my sister-in-law may explode if we don't have an actual ceremony. She has been waiting. Like, she is ready. Oh, thank you, Seaver. I appreciate that. Yes, Ducky. She is ready. Like, she texts us every day. I bet you if she knew that she could get you on WhatsApp, she probably, well, maybe not. She mostly bothers me about it. Cuz I'm not entirely sure what our timeline is supposed to be. Anyway, I'll let her know that you tried to contact her. She may not have recognized who it was. Oh, totally. She is so excited. Anyway. Get comfy, folks, because this is the last creepypasta of the night. I hope that you've had a wonderful evening with me. And, I guess I'll have to start thinking about doing more narrations at some point, because, clearly, I have way too much fun with this. Our last story of the evening is Candle Cove, written June 5th, 2009, by Chris Straub. Prologue. It comes most often at night. That niggling memory, gnawing in some corner of your mind like a rodent chewing at the corners of the drywall. The memory of some brightly lit cartoon funland or world of puppets. A memory of a TV show you would watch, seated cross-legged on the living room floor with the fixed, enthusiastic attention only a child can give. Attention that you wish now you perhaps hadn't given so freely. For there is something about that show, something about the discordant music, the details of the characters, their motivations and the storylines, the fixed, maniacal grins that seems, looking back, to be altogether too sinister to be a children's show. You try to block the memory out, and yet, there in the back of your mind, most often at night, the puppet's fixed grin keeps on smiling. Overview. Candle Cove is a widely known and popular creepypasta about a fictional television series recollected by a number of posters on a childhood nostalgia forum. As the posters share their recollections, the things they collectively remember become more and more sinister, with the characters featured clearly being unsuitable for children's viewing. Notable examples are the laughing stock, the boat that is alive and sports a huge mouth, Horace the Horrible, a one-eyed character with two large teeth, and most famously a skeleton character known as the Skin Taker, who wears the flesh of children over his naked bones. Hardly seems Sesame Street, doesn't it? Candle Cove Creepypasta. Net Nostalgia Forum. Television. Local. Sky Shale 003.
Subject: Candle Cove Local Kids Show. Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 72. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on a weird time. Like 4 p.m. Mike_Painter 65. Subject: Response: Candle Cove Local Kids TV Show. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Skyshell 033. Yes, okay, I am not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls. Real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll. Looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF, though. Jiren_2005. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what you mean, Skyshale. I think the Candle Cove ran for only a couple months in 71, not 72. I was 12, and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was Channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music constantly playing. I don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Skyshale. Thank you, Jaren. The memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock and Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face, the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Edwin voice and laugh. I remember especially how jarring it was when they switched the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike Painter. Oh, I remember now, too. Do you remember this part, Skyshell? You have to go inside. Skyshell. Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. And with his 2 eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and the fishing line that opened and closed it, ugh. It just looks so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above a really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin_Hart. Honestly thought the villain was a pirate, Percy. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren 2005. That wasn't the villain. The puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he had only one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. Can't believe they let us watch that back then. Kevin Hart. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of kids show were they watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings. Just a dirty skeleton wearing the brown top hat and cape. And his glass eyes were way too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Skyshale. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Mike Painter. Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close? His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the skin taker didn't look at the girl but at the camera and said to grind your skin. Sky Shale. I am so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but this camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically and just all screaming. And the girl was just moaning and crying like she'd been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin Hart. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. Sky Shale 33. No. Not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin Hart. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren 2005. Oh God, yes, the little girl, Janice. I remember seeing her shake, and the skin taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off, and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother, and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike Painter 65. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, if she remembered a kids' show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. And she said, because I used to think it was so strange that you said, "I'm gonna go watch Candle Cove now, Mom." And then you would turn in to TV, to the static, and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show. And that was Candle Cove, written by Chris Straub. I had to stop for a second. My voice is... Yep, probably gonna be done for the night. Oh. Don't forget your laundry. I'm gonna be ending stream in a second. Alright, good night, everybody. Good night, Mom. So Seifer, yes, I am a Christian. If that is what you are referring to. I do profess to be a follower of Christ. Although, funnily enough, I do know somebody whose name is Christian.
just talked about. Well, I thought it said, you know, you saw the Christian tag, and I just wanted to kind of like, yeah, it's there for a reason. I am indeed a Christian. That's all I really feel like I need to say about it. Anyway, I should probably change back to my regular self. Boop. Creepy Stitches is now retired for the night. Oh, you oversaw that? Yep, no worries. It was just like, it was like, yeah, no, you saw right. You saw it. Gothic Stitches is better. Well, it was like, Gothic Stitches can be for special occasions. Come on, I'm adorable this way, though. Thank you, Seaver. But don't forget that you, too, are utterly amazing. Anyway, this concludes community night. Thank you guys for joining me. I don't know if well, I always say I never know if I'm going to stream on Saturdays, but let's be honest. Unless something unless the rapture happens tomorrow for whatever reason, like, it was like, I will probably stream. And I usually do Metaphor Refantatio on Saturdays. So, at some point tomorrow, I will probably be putting some more time into Metaphor. Can't resist the pun. Don't resist the pun. The pun is the good one. The rapture happened tomorrow. I have to say goodbye now. Well, I mean, that's like one of the things about being a Christian. You kind of just have to live like the rapture will happen tomorrow or at any point in time. That's kind of the point. A lot of people tend to forget that. You know, the thing is that we're not supposed to know exactly when it happens. It says it in the Bible. You'll neither know the time, nor the hour, nor the place. Every time someone, like, brings up, like, oh, the rapture's gonna happen on this specific date, I was like, you don't know that. You don't know that. And you're going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. Anyway, I could go on a rant, but I won't. Wedding has to happen, yes! I need to hire someone to do the whole marriage thing, you know, bit from The Princess Bride. Heavens or not, like in Fallout, you never know. Exactly. You never know. You never know. That's why you have to live like it's going to happen at any point. Anyway, I should probably stop talking before I lose my voice. Alright, let's see. Is there someone? It is kind of late. I don't... I'm sure someone is probably streaming that I can bother. What Princess Bride stuff? I know somebody who would do it too. I probably wouldn't even have to pay him to say it. It would be great. Oh, hey, Riff is on, and he's doing Peak. Yeah, let's go bother Riff. Go bother the other cat boy. Exactly. You know what's up, Cal. You know what's up. Raid of Stitches! Hey, made raid, let's go! Alright guys, we're gonna start the raid. Boop.
Alright, everybody. Once again, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But if I don't, well, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!
For that exact reaction, that's why.
We have, Tropic, how you doing?
Abandoned by Disney is a good one. It even spawned a FNAF clone.
You're fine?
Everything
Everything's fine? Okay.
is cool when you're part of your team. Everything's yeah.
And you're living.
Right there. Oh, bye. Bye,
I
guys.
don't see you, Tropic.
Also, my legs are not.
So everything is not fine. Where are you?
Hang on, I got some.
Is that because you poisoned yourself to death? Did you poison yourself onto paralyzation?
Wait, are you with them? Are you following them?
I fell down a little bit.
I stopped it. Hooray.
Wait, how did you not like do the large scream like I would do if I